The Real George Orwell. Jura by Jonathan Holloway, with Joseph Milson as Eric Blair.
You going to see the tern's nest I told you about?
I came 500 miles to talk to you.
Not to fumble my housekeeper, then?
That too. But mainly because I so admired you.
Sorry to disappoint. Will you see the tern's nest before you go, Holbrook?
No. My name is David.
Well, it's a shame. David, I think the terns are among our more remarkable attractions. Does a life have a story attached? Does it really? I doubt it. A story is a lie, you see. It requires that facts are marshalled, summarized, distorted to fit a thesis. And that's what David Holbrook will do now. In his story, I shall be crafted by this moment of disappointment.
Susan's packing the cases. I expect we'll be off tonight.
There's no one here that can drive you to the ferry.
I realise that. She says we're going to walk over to Mrs. Fletcher's. Apparently she'll be able to take us to the ferry.
It's 7 miles.
I know.
With suitcases.
Yes.
It's going to rain.
Never mind.
And Susan has a limp.
They say that when you write a story, the ending is the most difficult part. For me, staying alive, not allowing the ending to come where it wants to, has become an ignominious, desperate struggle, like that of a character in a popular novel who is sinking in quicksand.
Yes. I was looking forward to seeing you very much.
As far as I'm concerned, you are just the pain in the backside who came up here to carry on with my housekeeper under my own roof.
It's not your roof. You just rent it. Susan is much more than a housekeeper.
Is she?
She's a thinker. Is that the real reason you hate me?
Pretty much. That and your foolish adherence to the Communist Party's slavish loyalty to Stalin. You must remember, I saw the real thing in Spain. I know what he's about. You lefty public schoolboys have no idea.
But you're a lefty public schoolboy too.
I had to write 1984, which is, if you like, my ending. It is a prophecy concerning what we shall become. It is peopled by those I knew in life, including myself. It is a story, and therefore a lie, but a lie stuffed with truth. The shysters and the hucksters will deny it. They will seek to hide the iniquity of their privileges. So after my darling Eileen died, I have come back to the remote island of Jura to struggle with 1984, to stay alive long enough to get it finished. Away from the filth of London and Stalin's stalking assassins, and of course instead, to be stalked in isolation by the filth of my own disease.
Were you sent here to spy on me?
No.
Something worse, then?
Absolutely not. That's absurd.
Is it?
Of course. Aren't you in the least bit worried what people will think of you when I tell them you used my manuscript to light the fire?
Not particularly. I don't like you, you see.
Then why did you let me look at 1984?
I hoped it might shock you out of your Stalinist nonsense. There was always the possibility you might say something enlightening. So what do you think?
There's not really a book, is there?
Is that irony?
Can't you tell?
You're not very expressive, are you?
Fine. It's at the end of my interview.
Oh, come on, sit still.
Is there something you want to say?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Go ahead.
I'm frightened, David.
Of assassins like me?
It's the illness, you see. I'm worried it'll get me before the book is finished.
Then hadn't you better get off this godforsaken rock?
Here, I can imagine Eileen is still alive and just gone indoors to look after little Ricky. She'll be out in a moment. This place is... It's like the mythic Scottish island in Barry's Mary Rose, where time flows back and forth. In a busier place, Eileen would be obliterated.
Are you saying you're worried you'll die before you finish the novel?
Yes.
This island will kill you. Get back to London.
Eileen hated London. When this island is at its most beautiful, when the air is thick with the driving horizontal mist, It's then I hate this place. It is a sublimely powerful place where human will has lost all hope. Everything is belittled by Jura's promiscuous decision to wipe the slate clean whenever the mood takes it, to flatten the beans, wash away the seedlings, set its rats on the chicks. We are overcome, defeated, and everywhere is death and bullying by a powerful unseen hand.
Then for God's sake, leave.
But look at the many plains of the hillsides overlapping into the distance. Then the grey strip of water protruding from behind our hill which makes a gully with its neighbour that frames the beach. Some days it lies, but I'm prepared to surrender to the prostitute's bad acting. Although I wasn't born to happiness, it provides a gruesome caricature of that condition, which is the best I might expect. Do you understand my illness, David?
Not really.
Planned a scene in 1984 where Winston Smith looks at himself in the mirror and cries at the sight of his scrawny, concave chicken breast.
I suppose you must have caught TB in Burma, along with pneumonia and so on.
It was Paris. It was that bloody hospital I was in while tramping about being a poor fellow. It was lying there in a ward of diseased Frenchies, coughing great fountains of poison straight up in the air, covering everything with a fine film of infected sputum.
How pleasant.
Don't get clever, you little bugger. This is me. Orwell spilling the beans. This might be your only great literary moment, David.
Calm down. I'm listening.
Back in England, escaped alive from the Spanish Civil War, I had a bout of hemoptysis.
What's that?
Coughing up of blood, originating from the respiratory tract below the level of the larynx. That's when I went off to Preston Hall to be treated by Eileen's brother Lawrence. She said he was one of nature's natural fascists, but he was still a bloody good doctor. He diagnosed bronchiectasis. Yes, it meant the lower half of my left lung was stuck open. Ossified, not functioning, kaput. And it was him, Lawrence, who confirmed TB by prodding about inside and injecting guinea pigs with the muck he found there.
Poor guinea pigs.
Don't like them. Bites are like electric shocks. The treatment was startling. I was swaddled in bandages so bloody tight I couldn't move, couldn't even scratch my backside. Agony. They put sandbags on my shoulders.
What the hell for?
Apparently, part of the problem with any sort of healing is human movement. We can't bloody sit still, you see. So our constant fidgeting stops tissues from knitting as they ought. By imprisoning one in a hateful state of itchy mummification, the stillness enables the body to fix itself. But it takes time. Enough time that most patients are sent insane by the experience and end up spending the rest of their short lives in secure psychiatric institutions.
That's terrible.
But useful to a storyteller. Winston gets tortured, strapped down. And of course, because it made me angry, then I went and undid all Lawrence's hard work. How? It's your turn. You say, how?
How?
In '39, I went to see a Harley Street quack called Herbert Morlock, and he said it was all nothing more than chronic bronchitis, that is. And of course I listened to his breezy optimism. No one with TB wants to think they've got a death sentence, and that bastard gave me the confidence to come here and work myself and Winston Smith into an early grave and undo all that Eileen's brother achieved. And now I think... I'm afraid I've determined my premature demise.
God help you, Eric.
Wish me luck.
That same kind of luck you wish me.
Oh, the heavens, no. It'd be nice if you actually meant it.
Eric?
Yes, Avril?
Oh, it's been a lovely couple of days. No clacking typewriter, thank heavens. Marjorie would have loved it.
I'm not sure Humphrey would. No. I always feel disappointed when I remember our sister's married to a civil servant.
You sound like an old colonel in his club complaining about the lower middle classes.
Still, it's been nice to have Marjorie's children. Get on so well with Ricky.
Look, Daddy, it's a bed pillow.
Oh, it's a purse, Ricky. Purse, that's what mermaids keep their money in.
Mermaids?
Mm-hmm.
Mermaids? What's that?
A fish who's a lady who's a fish, Ricky.
A fish who's a lady who's a fish.
Quite a lot of wet stuff. The towels. Well, the tents haven't had a chance to dry off. Need to lay them out when we get back. I think I'll walk back with Jane. I've been worrying in case the weather changes tomorrow. I'd like to get the last of the hay in. When you're back, park the boat, give us a shout, and we'll help carry all this back up to the house.
Very well.
Besides, I think the boat was sitting rather low on the way round. She'll be safer without us.
Tide will be slack on the way back through the Sound. No dramatics anticipated.
Jane and I can be back and working within a couple of hours. It'll take you all morning to get round the headland.
Fine, that's not a problem. What do you reckon, Hen?
What do I reckon about what, Uncle Eric?
Don't call me Uncle, just plain Eric.
Sorry, Eric.
You'll do for a first mate in your aunt's absence, won't you?
Just don't ask me to navigate, that's all. My squad hopelessly lost near Bremen last night.
We'll be fine. I've calculated the tide. Just keep the land on our right shoulder. We'll be fine, eh, Henry?
Yes, Eric.
If not, next stop, Iceland.
We'll be off then. Jane, you ready?
Just let me get my sack on and I'm with you. Bye-bye, Auntie.
Bye, Ricky. See you at home.
Bye. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Righto. Bye, Uncle Eric.
Bye, Jane. See you later. Lucy, can you get Ricky ready to move, do you think?
Righto. Shall I bring him down to you?
Yes, please. All right, everyone. Let's saddle up and get the boat in the water. All right, Henry? Take a hold. Ricky, you snuggle.
That's the engine, too loud.
Henry, the bracket's loose. We might lose the engine.
But watch out, it's going!
All right, Ricky, you snuggle in. Losing the engine's fine. We've come up 6 inches without the weight of it. Good riddance, I say.
Good riddance.
Uncle, there's a whirlpool to the right. We're going straight for it.
Split us out the other side.
We have to make way.
What?
If we're not making way, moving forward under power, then we can't control the boat.
Get the oars out, Lucy. Swap places with Henry. Henry, get into the middle. Come on, it's up to you, Hen. It's all right, Ricky. Don't be sad. Don't both stand at the same time.
We're doing our best.
Dig in, Hen. That's it. I'll hang on to Ricky and the tiller.
Another whirlpool coming up. Uncle, steer to starboard.
To the right, Eric.
Not too hard over. You'll just stop us dead.
45 degrees on the tiller, Eric.
Dig in, Hen. Dig in.
There's a little island over there. We can get there. Henry, Uncle, steer. Too much swell. We won't be able to land.
How long is the painter?
What?
Long enough, I'd say.
You fend off with one of the oars, Lucy. I'll get the painter between my teeth and jump for it. Once I'm on, toss Ricky to me on the up, Eric.
Righto.
Daddy, no.
All right.
Don't move yet, Eric. Keep sitting with Ricky until I'm safely on.
Yes.
I'm on. Get Ricky ready. Give him to me on the next up.
All right.
Henry, let go. You'll turn us over.
Lucy, take my hand.
My feet.
Where's Uncle Eric?
Ricky!
Here, take him. He went under the boat.
My heavens! There you are. Poor little Ricky. There's a good fellow.
I've got some wood.
Good boy.
I've cut my feet.
Me too.
I ruined my size 12 boots. Have you got any idea how difficult it is to find a decent pair of boots in size 12? Boots that are equally at home in town and country. Look at my boots, Ricky. Look at them. They're broken.
Silly Daddy.
Silly boots.
Silly boot.
Managed to save 1 potato. Shall we cook it?
One tato.
My watch has had it. What about yours, Henry?
We've been here 3 hours.
Well, the fire ought to attract someone's attention eventually.
Strangely exhilarating. When one stares death in the face, wouldn't you agree? In fact, It has done.
What?
Attracted someone's attention. That's a lobster boat. Hurrah! Certainly an experience, eh? Like castaways on Valentine's Coral Island.
Except without the blue tropical seas.
And the coral.
Still a wonderful opportunity for some unscheduled bird watching. Did you know puffins live in burrows? Ah, here he comes. Here he comes.
Hello, Ricky.
Hello. Where's my ball?
Oh, I think the chickens have been playing with it.
Silly chicken. Bring ball back.
We expected to see you coming up from the cove.
What kept you?
What brought you round that way?
I had to do a bit of walking, actually, Avril.
3 hours of it. The lobster man offered to bring us home, but Eric insisted he dropped us off straight away so we could walk.
With feet in tatters.
I expected you for lunch. It's nearly supper time.
So what happened?
Where's the boat?
We lost it, sort of thing.
Eric, what happened?
It's just a bit of shenanigans with the tide. What's for supper? Good of the youngsters to take Ricky off on a hike. We can't spend forever neglecting the farm.
Now they've had a few days to get over their expedition, they seem almost jolly again.
What's the matter?
I don't understand what you're doing.
I am removing the spark plug from the new outboard and replacing it with one that was taken out of the car at the last service.
And why are you doing that when you could be writing?
Because this new outboard isn't working properly.
What's wrong with the new outboard?
Acting up. Yesterday, when I was out fishing in the new skiff,
What happened?
had to row against the tide.
And that's why you sounded like one of your emphysemic old miners from the valleys.
I suppose so.
And you think it's the plug?
Bill said it might be. He said it might be oiling up. I assume you trust Bill's opinion?
You're being nasty about Bill.
Don't be ridiculous. No, I was simply remarking on the closeness between you and him.
Bill has been a godsend. I could do worse than marry a fellow like that.
Do you really want to marry the local one-legged farmer?
I asked about the outboard.
I might not be getting the oil-to-petrol mix right.
Well, do you measure it properly when you're putting it in?
Yes, by eye.
Well, that doesn't sound right.
That's how everyone does it.
I don't suppose that's true. So, it might not be the spark plug at all.
I'm lost in the torture section. I know Winston's final surrender and his betrayal of Julia, the do it to her moment. I know how it ought to work, but at present I'm still in the same old cell. With the same old beatings. I need something new. No, the spark plug's something I can try before I waste a whole tank of petrol emptying it out and refilling it with a different mix.
I'd be very surprised if you can just swap the spark plug from a two-stroke outboard motor with one from any old car.
Okay.
Well, they're different serial numbers for a start.
What?
Well, surely that must mean they're for different engines. Eric,
Yes?
do you understand the difference between a four-stroke and a two-stroke engine?
Of course I do.
Right, then. I don't, so why don't you explain it to me? So you had to row against the tide.
Sat and waited before I came up, let my breathing settle. I didn't want you to see.
So you've started creeping around, hiding your symptoms. Did you know that the tide would be running against you when you wanted to come back in?
No.
Did you know the engine was dodgy when you went out?
Yes, sort of.
And you still went out?
Yes.
Listen, Eric, don't you think you should at least know what's going on and why? What makes the tides happen, Eric?
The moon, Avril.
And how does that work exactly? Perhaps you shouldn't take Richard out again.
Ricky.
Oh, God, never. What does it matter?
Eileen and I called him Ricky. And when he's asleep, we ought to keep a better eye on him. Your friend Bill was saying there have been rat attacks on sleeping babies at the southern end of the island. They always go for the face, apparently. Smith grew up in the rubble of the city. He saw rats every day. Perhaps O'Brien brings in rats. Here.
What?
You carry on with the engine. I need to go back to work.
Well, what do you want for supper?
I reversed over a chicken earlier. We'll have that.
Avril. Avril, you've lit a fire.
Oh, actually, Jane lit it before we sat down for supper. She's very capable.
It's nice to have a fire.
If we run out of wood, we could burn that new duck house of yours, Eric. Really is the oddest example of carpentry I've ever seen.
Has anyone checked Ricky?
I did. His spark out.
That was a terrific supper, Aunt Avril.
Too many bones.
Well, it's difficult to get the bones out when the bird's all bashed up like that.
She was a good layer, not a pot bird. Poor old Dorothy.
Smoke, Henry?
No thanks, Eric. Will you slaughter the goats, eventually?
When they stop giving milk, I suppose so, yes.
And you won't feel like a murderer.
I say, have you young people seen that film? It came out about 2 years ago. What was it? Deadly Night? Is that right?
Dead of Night.
Dead of Night.
Oh, yes. Oh, topping. Had it in the mess in Germany. Are you all right, Eric?
Damn it.
Are we having ghost stories?
Oh, I don't think so, no.
Shame.
I get a bit eerie, Lucy.
Good-o.
The movie begins with a group of people assembling in a cosy country retreat, and then they gather around the fireside.
Like us here.
Yes, and they start to talk about their dreams, which are, of course, pretty scary.
I just got goosebumps.
In the last story, Michael Redgrave plays a psychotic ventriloquist. Now, of course, we don't know he's psychotic at first. In fact, we think he's quite a nice chap, except after he's done his show. Sylvester, yes, a rival ventriloquist, is leaving his dressing room after a row, and the dummy starts crying out to him through the closed door.
Oh. Sylvester, don't leave. Please, get me out of here. Please, please.
And then I think there's a murder, and yes, and Redgrave and his dummy are locked in the local jail on suspicion. Very unsettling. Have I got it right?
Oh, I wasn't watching, but it sounded pretty like it.
Yes, Eric, that's the gist.
Now, of course, we, the audience, know Redgrave actually did the murder, but within his own head, he lets himself off the hook because he blames the dummy. But the dummy bites him. There are what look like human teeth marks on Redgrave's hand, with blood coming through. And that sows a seed of doubt in us. Maybe this dummy is actually demonic. Maybe it does have a life of its own.
Chilling stuff, don't you think?
Then, once Redgrave is in the prison, in the sanatorium, he tries to smother the dummy with a pillow. And all through the scene, as the muffled dummy begs for its life, Redgrave is still moving his lips in that way ventriloquists have of not quite managing to hide that they're voicing the dummy. Please, please, no, please. Avril, do my lips move when I'm being George Orwell at the typewriter? Hmm? Is he my dummy, do you think, children? Or am I his? Lucy, look at me. Look at me, look into my face. Am I Uncle Eric or George Orwell? What do you see?
Uncle, no, that's just too spooky. I won't sleep a wink.
Oh, well done, Eric. Top hole. You had us going there.
Imagine if George Orwell is a ruthless killer. Then, like the ventriloquist's dummy, he might be capable of manipulating his creator into doing all kinds of despicable things.
But who would George want to kill?
Me, of course.
Eric, that's enough. How about some tea, Jane?
Yes, we'll go.
I see the blood streaks in your hankies when they go through the wash. If you know George Orwell is dragging you to an early grave, why don't you tell him to damn well get out? Jura! Jura! Bloody Jura!
They're a cheerful bunch. But at least now they're gone, we can get on with the planting.
How are you feeling?
I know I'm getting worse.
I worry in case you hemorrhage. We're so far from a doctor.
I confess I am beginning to feel a bit vulnerable. I had hoped people might want to help us out. If we had more like Jane and Henry visiting us, then things would seem a lot easier.
People have their own lives. They come to us for their holidays, not to look after us. I think we should let the farm go, such as it is. I'll concentrate on Ricky. You get 1984 finished.
If you want to go back south, just say so.
I'm just suggesting we let the farm slip gently back to nature and order food from the village.
That would be giving up.
I prefer the world with you in it. And now there's a world that rather likes the idea of George Orwell.
When I went to Eileen's grave in Newcastle, when I saw it, I felt so very alone, and I missed her terribly. Ricky needs a mother, and I need a woman. Always needed women, Avril.
Eileen's death was very sad, I know, Eric.
I was unfaithful to her, but it didn't mean I loved her any less.
What?
I've always got over-enthusiastic about women. Sometimes on first meeting, it's like someone's flicked a switch. I come out with the silliest things. You know, while I was married to Eileen, I used to tell other women she was content to let me carry on because she just wanted me to be happy.
Did Eileen know?
Sometimes.
Was she content?
Not at all. No. When it comes to women, I am stuck with the libido of a 16-year-old. I took up with a French tart in Paris. She moved into my hotel room. Lovely short Eton haircut and a bum like a boy's. I would have married her. Then she surprised me by producing a boyfriend, and the two of them robbed me. Oh. I lied about it in Down and Out, said it was an Italian who did it, but it was a short-haired imp, really.
You know, my life hasn't exactly been without incident. And believe it or not, I too have feelings.
You're making me feel queasy. I don't really want to know about my sister's longings.
You admitted you were like a spoilt child when Richard Reese came up to stay with me.
Yes, sorry.
I remember the day you tried to talk him into getting between the shafts of the cart and making like a pony.
Well, now you've got long Bill Silver, me hearties, following you about. Desperate.
Bill Dunn is a fine man. Don't make fun of him.
Sadly, I don't see many eligible young women hunting the tundra, hiking determinedly onwards, searching for a lanky, cadaverous writer with a mewling 3-year-old adoptee, who I assume is asleep.
Yes.
The amount that boy sleeps. Hope he doesn't have brain damage.
Young children need sleep. It's when they grow.
Lucky things.
Women do come by now and then. We have visitors.
I don't count my nieces. Not yet, anyway.
Oh. You know, on the companionship front, it might help if you didn't offer marriage to any poor girl who makes the mistake of stopping to light a cigarette within 10 yards of you.
Can't promise, I'm afraid.
In a month or two, those mountains will be covered in snow. Just letting out the chickens will be an act of heroism as one has to hack through the ice to give them something to drink. The ducks won't be able to wash their eyes. There'll be ice on the insides of the windows. And then we'll be into February. And that's always when your chest gets really bad. And this time, you might not make it into March, Eric. We have to go to the mainland and put you in a sanatorium.
I'm not giving in.
Why haven't you lit the lamp?
I like to watch the light go.
Is the kettle hot?
Yes. Success?
Ta-da! I come bearing gifts.
Yeah.
A letter from London, addressed by someone who looks to have a female hand. Well, come on. Give me the dope.
It's too dark to read. You light the lamp, will you?
better. Now we can see what we're doing. It's from Sonia.
Second thoughts?
No, not about coming up to live here. But she says she's concerned I should know she still has a soft spot for me. But she doesn't feel she can just pack in the work she's doing when she's just getting into television.
Nonsense, of course, because it'll never catch on.
It does in 1984. Yeah. And she wants to keep the door open. Hopes I'll let her know the moment there's a possibility I'll be visiting London.
Oh, Eric, you're right about not having grown up. That's why all those girls like you. Little boy in size 12s. God in heaven, Eric, your skin colour.
I have to admit, I'm not feeling very Christmassy.
Is that your way of saying you're frightened?
Frightened I won't finish the book.
I thought you were nearly done.
Rough, but not redrafting, so they can't mangle the thing in editing.
Did you sleep last night?
Off and on.
You really do stink, Eric.
Sheets were soaked again this morning. Hung them on the banister.
Are you going to let me get you into hospital?
Yes, please, Avril.
I'll drive down to Ardlossa in the morning, check the sea state for the ferry, and phone that place on the mainland we thought about. Herr Myers. At least we might get to spend Christmas Day in civilization. You checked your weight?
I've lost a little over 2 stones.
I'll be back by tea time. Now stay in front of the fire, will you?
Hello, is that you? Avril? Hello, darling. Yes. Well, not yet a while. I can't do much better, I'm afraid. I am on a trolley next to the sister's desk on her telephone, you see. No, the treatment they're giving me puts the left lung completely out of action, which is supposed to give it a better chance to heal. They first crushed the phrenetic nerve, which I gather is what makes the lung expand and contract. Then they pump air in the space underneath the lung sac, between it and the diaphragm, which I understand pushes the lung up into a different position. No, I mean they've been in there and cut the lungs away from the ribs so they can get the movement they want. Pretty impressive. Yes, so, the pressure pushes the lung up and closes the cavities that have been carved out by the disease. And that means there aren't all those sort of valleys, gullies sort of thing, in which pneumonia and so on can flourish like they're in some kind of hothouse. Avril, are you there? You've gone quiet. Well, yes, imagine how I feel. Anyway, I have to get refills of air into the diaphragm every few days. But later on it'll get down to once a week, or less. Exhausting. As if one's fighting for some kind of healing to happen and it never quite manages to. As if death's jest book is having a good old laugh. Anyway, it's good stuff for the book. Listen, here. The legs had shrunk so the knees were thicker than the thighs. The curvature of the spine was astonishing. The thin shoulders were hunched forward so as to make a cavity of the chest. The scraggy neck seemed to be bending double under the weight of the skull. All good stuff, eh? Yes. Thanks for getting me back here.
I didn't want to.
Thanks. It's the place to finish it, don't you think?
What do you mean, finish it?
The book, Avril.
Oh.
Book. Look at my neck. Drugs made my skin just start peeling off. Anyway, back to the cold face of art, eh? Oh, yes. Something I meant to tell you the docs said before they let me out. Apparently, with my poor chest as a kid and so on, they might have given me lots of remedies with mercury in them.
Which possibly explains why my sperm is dead. So they started killing me progressively from childhood, in a way that ensured I wouldn't leave my footprint in the world, genetically speaking, so to speak.
You look wonderful, Mrs. Orwell.
You look absurd, Eric. Dressed in all your finery from the waist up.
You could slip your hand under the bedclothes now they've gone. It is our wedding night, after all.
Imagine if someone came in. It wouldn't be a very noble gift to posterity, would it?
No, but true to character.
Do you feel like talking?
Yes.
Got my notebook somewhere.
You don't need to worry about getting every word down. I think it's best if I just ramble. You try to get the gist of things. When you're writing about something that's actually happened and you weren't there, you reach a point when you have to close the books and write what seems to have stuck to the wall. You met me late, so it's going to be about your impression of things.
I understand.
Where are we going to start?
1984 is a thing for which you'll be best remembered. That's what I'm going to get asked about all the time.
All right. The books I had written up to this point have been witness to real events. Even Animal Farm. They're histories. 1984 is a history and also a prophecy.
Just talk to me, darling.
Everything in 1984 is known to me. They'll try and say it's a work of the imagination, but actually it's a grueling account of how we shall live if we don't do something. I have a photograph of Stalin and Yezhov together on a bridge, and another picture, just the same, with an empty space where Yezhov stood, except I don't know where it is. I suppose it's in a box somewhere, maybe still on Jura.
I believe you.
You know, Yezhov actually out-Stalined Stalin as an NKVD killer.
I'm sure.
The rubble and rats in Smith's London are the same as you'll find on the bomb sites of King's Cross, just up the road from here, and that's certainly where I imagine Charrington keeping his shop, and the shattering rocket bombs that rain down are the Germans' V1s and V2s. On Saturday, 25th of November 1944, at 12:26 p.m. at a busy shopping parade in New Cross, a V2 rocket hit, killing 168 mothers, children, old people. 40 of them were Woolworths staff, including Saturday girls and boys. It was a nice day. It was a change from the rain and the snow. There were children returning from a swim at the local baths. Workmen sat on a wall eating their sandwiches.
You don't have to say any more.
Those poor people. Victory Mansions, where Smith lives, is Langford Court on Abbey Road, where Eileen and I lived. The copses, where Julia and Smith make love, are in the Hertfordshire countryside around Wallington and the Stores, where Eileen and I also made love. The train Smith takes out there is the one I used to get into the BBC. The grisly grandeur of the Ministry of Truth is Senate House at University College, just a quarter of a mile from here. The BBC canteen at Portland Place, with the dirty plates and the stink of chips in filthy oil and stewed cabbage, is the one Smith eats in. Room 101 is the Broadcasting House office where the Eastern Service Committee met and bullied me when I was racked with bronchitis. And BH, along with every state agency, was full of fascist sympathisers right through the bloody war. They had a say in what we could and couldn't broadcast. Them, the bloody O'Briens of our world, with their soft tones and smiles and hard hearts. And it was from the BBC that I learnt the real truth about privilege. That its sole purpose is to perpetuate itself. And that's what Goldstein's book tells Smith.
Do you need anything?
A moment, just a moment.
I just want you to know, this isn't about pity. I do love you. And at the same time, I am honoured, Eric. Grateful that you chose me for the task. The world will miss you.
Always best to quit when you're ahead. Nothing as sad as a diminished variety artist. I trust you, Sonia. And I'm honoured that you have married me. And you have a magnificent bosom.
How very much.
Keep it to yourself. The rogue bit. I mean, do what you like with the bosom. Oh, and the faces of the prisoners at the mass hangings are the Burmese I executed on behalf of King George V. Prol feed is the rubbish that comes out of the radio, and it's garnished with the football pools, which Smith knows as the lottery. And 1984 was completed on the 100th anniversary of the publication of the Communist Manifesto. The 4th of April is the first date Smith puts in his fatal diary. That's the day on which Eileen was buried in Jesmond. And that last letter, the one she never finished, in it, she says, "My bed is next to the window and it faces the right way. I also see the fire and a clock." Clock. The book is full of bloody clocks, counting me out of this. You're a sensible girl, Sonia. I have to ask a question. Will you promise to answer honestly?
Of course.
How did I do?
I don't understand.
Did I make a good job?
Oh, yes. You made a very good job of it, Eric.
Oh, thank you, dearest. You can go now if you like. Good night.
Good night, Eric.
George.
All right, then. Good night, George.
No, Eric's better.
I agree. Good night, then, Eric.
Jura. Jura. Bloody Jura.
What's that?
Nothing.
In the real George Orwell, Jura, Eric Blair was played by Joseph Milson, Avril Blair by Liza Sadovy, David Holbrook by Adam Nagaitis, Sonia Orwell by Stephanie Racine, and Ricky Blair by James Foster, with Will Howard, Alexandra Gelf and Lizzie Watts. The real George Orwell, Jura, was written by Jonathan Holloway and directed by Jeremy Mortimer.